MP that your water spouts have for Kyogre every turn, even if it's resisted. There's such a, you know, a problem that if you can let Charizard steamroll through a matchup, it can just be unstoppable at certain points. But Isabel is going to try, as she leads with Incineroar and Grimmsnarl on the top of your screen, and the bottom of your screen with Gavin having Incineroar and Venusaur. You got to watch out for that Groudon switch in. The
Groudon switch in is the big concern for me here, right? Is when does it show up? And does it just come in and set the sun just to get the chlorophyll? You know, that's really, really nasty. And if you think, well, the Venusaur's gonna Gigantamax anyway, the fake out's not a concern anymore. You don't need to match the fake out over on your side. Or, you know, could the Venusaur just try and play maybe a turn without it? I think this is a lot more aggressive a lead. This is a very, very defensive lead from Isabel, not really being able to fire back any big damage. And the fake out heads over towards the Incineroar. But the light screen goes up, and that can be huge in this matchup, especially with Venusaur and Charizard being that concern. Let's see how much that light screen does. Look at the impact of it.
Yep, Sludge Bomb will not do too much damage, even though it's super effective. It will, however, get a poison there. So, one, you know, interesting to note, no switch outs. As of that turn, Gavin's Incineroar beat out a potential fake out on the, you know, the other end, or whatever attack Incineroar wanted to go for. And then no Dynamax either, so you still have that chance every turn with Venusaur. If you want to bring Groudon in, you could make it super fast.
Well, that is the one thing you do have to be concerned about with the Incineroar on the other side. And actually this lead maybe sort of secretly a little more aggressive than I led on in the previous turn. If you bring in Groudon and set the sun, the opposing Incineroar can do an absolute number on a Venusaur. So you do have to be careful and maybe a little bit respectful of that. That said, you know, there's one way to avoid taking too much damage, and that is by doubling your health. As a percentage of your health, it definitely looks a lot better when you're Dynamax, or in this case, Gigantamax, because of course it is that Venusaur ready to go. And now you know that the light screen's set up, you need to start doing more damage, and there's one really good way to do it, in my opinion, and that is, of course, set up.
Venusaur dodges Thunder Wave, so now Gavin doesn't have to mess around with Paralysis, and this Max Ooze will go into Grimmsnarl, bringing it down into the red. Not enough for a knockout thanks to the light screen from the previous turn. He does get a special attack increase on the Venusaur, so its next attack is going to be doing even more damage. And then Throat Chop into Incineroar, trying to stop a parting shot. Instead, though, Flare Blitz comes out into the Venusaur there. So the Dynamax health actually proving critical there because it didn't take too much. And Grimmsnarl felled to poison on that turn.
Yeah, not getting that Thunder Wave down is absolutely awful for Isabel. Definitely wanting to play around that. She was looking to I think, carve out the biggest advantage there. But getting your Zacian in, being able to, you know, just start throwing attacks into a Gigantamax Pokemon on the other side of the field, you're going to be doing huge damage. And this Venusaur is still going to struggle. Before we got into the turn, though, I do think at some point the G-Max move that deals some residual damage between hand is going to be important, right? The Vine Lash is going to be absolutely essential because the light screen doesn't care about that. The light screen does not affect that in the slightest. So once that goes down, you can sort of make up for those boosts going in play. I like the special attack boost coming through to try and help out against that light screen and punch through it with just a higher stat line overall. But the Incineroar on Gavin's side leaving, even though, guess what? You're an Incineroar in front of Zacian. You might have been able to Flare Blitz it, but you would be able to, of course, land that Intimidate a little bit later on.
So both Incineroars have left the field at this point. Gavin deciding to bring Grimmsnarl into that slot, and then Isabel has Kyogre switching onto the field to set up the rain. To note, Gavin now, that means he did not bring one of his restricted pairings in this game one. Max Guard, though, correctly predicted from Gavin as the Behemoth Blade went into that slot. So now Kyogre is here with full health. You do have access to just switching Groudon in on this turn, but if you don't want to, maybe you can just Vine Lash that slot and start getting that residual damage.
It's going to be a tough ask. I mean, it might not even be Groudon in the back, right? I'd be shocked if it wasn't, just because you pair Groudon with a Charizard or a Venusaur each game. It seems like quite a good choice to be able to make a team preview. And I like actually going for the Venusaur in this matchup. You sort of accept that, yes, while the Charizard is very, very good here, it's more important to win the Kyogre matchup. There's the the Groudon revealed. So all 4 Pokemon now revealed on both sides of the field, and this could get really bad for the Kyogre very, very quickly.
And that's the dynamic speed change in Sword and Shield, where Pokemon with Chlorophyll or Swift Swim or, you know, Slush Rush, whatever type of weather-based speed move. I had to throw in Slush Rush. Adam is upset with me. I had to throw it out there. We'll get that speed immediately once the weather hits, instead of previous games where you'd have to wait till the next turn. Dynamax Kyogre for Isabel, though, will potentially be able to set up the rain again. And then Max Quake from Venusaur into the Zacian brings it down low. It brings it under half HP, but you've now used your 3 G-Max turns and never clicked Vine Lash, so you don't have excuse me, that residual damage every turn. Behemoth Blade from Isabel's Zacian does target into the Venusaur here, so it is Dynamax, so it will do double damage, and it will actually just knock it out. Venusaur goes down. Those 3 turns you had the Max Ooze, then you had the Max Guard, and then Max Quake into it. Obviously, Zacian doesn't care about special defense boost, as it's a physical attacker, and Max Geyser into Groudon brings it down really low and resets up the rain.
Maybe Gavin's overthought that one a little bit, because allowing that Kyogre off scot-free there just seems a little bit cheeky to me. And not getting that Vine Lash into the Kyogre slot, yes, it could protect your Max Guard, and that would be terrible news for you. But I don't know if the Max Quake, in my opinion, is enough.
So even if it does Max Guard, then you could just Vine Lash Zacian, right? Like, you could just try to hit that slot if that is what you're worried about.
And now, I mean, that Kyogre's in a great position. Set the rain back up for itself. What you can do, Groudon, switch out and allow your, I don't know, Incineroar to come back in the rain.
Geyser, right?
Ooh,
I guess you do have the access with Grimmsnarl now. You can have some fun interactions with whatever this held item is, and you know, Grimmsnarl being a prankster, you could set your own screens. But at this point, it might be too late, because you know, I think that Isabel got much more value out of it, you know, early on, where this Grimmsnarl for Gavin is a little late in the matchup.
It's definitely late, and it's going to have to do a lot of work. It's not going to be screens. I like Scary Face here, being able to put some speed control on the board. Really, really nice.
Zacian is now very slow, had its speed drop 2 stages there, but a Max Geyser means Groudon never even gets to attack on this turn, because the Kyogre knocks it out. So now Gavin is down to Incineroar and Grimmsnarl, and that is not a position you want to be in. The Behemoth Blade, though, from Zacian targeting into the Grimmsnarl, so that is a super effective attack. And then even Grimmsnarl gets knocked out, so now it's just Incineroar, and Isabel has convincingly won game 1.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with the Incineroar, right? Take out 3 Pokemon with it, one of which is a Kyogre?
Not likely.
Maybe not. But really, you know, I think actually in the early couple turns, you know, Gavin was really trying to put the pressure on with his Venusaur. He got that turn where Venusaur gets the Groudon boost immediately, that immediate Chlorophyll boost coming into play. But I just don't know if there was really enough respect from that Venusaur to do the amount of damage that it needed. And Isabel has played this game so nicely. That Kyogre has been absolutely let off the hook. That Kyogre being left alone for 1 turn, it just went and won the game from there. So if you're Gavin, you've got to think, well, you know, I can't allow it to do that. But if you're Isabel, you think, well, why wasn't he respecting my Kyogre? And just took over the game from there.
Yeah, so that's definitely the point to focus on here as we get prepared for team preview of Game 2, as these trainers are getting ready, seeing what adjustments they have. Gavin did not bring Lunala, did not bring Charizard either, deciding that Groudon Venusaur with Chlorophyll was the better option. And in theory, I guess it could have worked. You did have to worry about Light Screen being up, so you knew your G-Max Vine Lash was not going to knock out Kyogre. But still, like you even mentioned how the Vine Lash residual damage doesn't care about Light Screen. It's kind of like, it's like a true damage at the end of every turn.
Yes.
Like, it is doing the same amount no matter what. So even if you don't knock out Kyogre, you're still doing a considerable amount of damage to it.
It just seems like such a wasted opportunity, and I don't know. I'd love to pull the numbers on how many times does somebody get all 3 turns of their Dynamax
and never click Vine Lash
and not hit Vine Lash. Like, it's a little bit mind-blowing to me, and I'd love to maybe talk to him about it and just say, well, you know, why did you value those moves over that? Because it just seems like a missed opportunity.
It also,
but I also think he was not expecting the Kyogre to just attack that turn.
Right. It also could have been worse theoretically because Isabel missed Thunderwave, because all we saw Grimmsnarl do was light screen, miss Thunderwave, and get knocked out. So it actually could have been an even worse position that he was in, where even if you have chlorophyll and you have the stun up, if you're paralyzed, you could still be, or if you are, have the paralysis, you might get paralyzed every turn.
It was a very well played match from Team Preview, right? And at the beginning of the game, I said, I don't know about this this Charizard is basically like able to deal with 3 of the Pokemon, but you only bought 1 of them anyway. So it worked out quite nicely, and I think overall, you gotta be a fan of G-Max Vinelash. I'm a fan of G-Max Vinelash, and I'm disappointed I didn't see it.
It's a cool team to have where you have access. Like, obviously, I don't know if there are any, super zany people out there that'll bring Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur on the same team of 6.
Commitment.
Yes, commit to the bit. But by having Charizard and Venusaur, it really is matchup dependent on which type of residual damage you want to hit the battlefield, every game. So choosing Venusaur in the first, it doesn't seem like it was the wrong decision. It was pretty solid. He got the max ooze special attack boost, so that somewhat helped negate a little bit of the light screen damage there. But is there a world where it is actually Charizard in front of a Kyogre?
Potentially. While we've got a second though, Joe, there is something I do need to loop back on, as I just want to call this one out. How did you go Chlorophyll, Swift Swim, and then Slush Rush as number 3 during that game? That is not the 3rd in that list, and it's not.
But in my heart, it's the first. You know what I mean?
Really?
I'm lying.
Slush Rush over Swift Swim.
Swift Swim. I'm a big Rain player, so Swift Swim is actually
I was going to say, I've seen you play
heart.
Rain. Don't lie to me.
Yes. So we are getting ready here for Game 2 as the players are going back into it here. So Isabel has a Game 1 lead over Gavin. This is the second match of round 4 during our lunch break here in Vancouver. So hopefully Gavin has some adjustments like he has Grimmsnarl, Lunala, and at this point maybe against Grimmsnarl and Incineroar, maybe this could be what Gavin needs to force a Game 3.
You have to make some change. I never agree with players who lose Game 1 like convincingly not making changes, so I'm glad there's been an adaptation there. But once again, this lead actually, when I first saw it on paper in the beginning of game number 1, I thought, it's a bit defensive from Isabel. I actually quite like it here. I think the Incineroar is able to put in a surprisingly large amount of work. In this case, it's going to be a potential throat chop into that Lunala. Yes, you have to worry about Shadow Shield, but once again, Gavin getting his own Grimmsnarl up, we could be in for a longer game just because of the potential of double screens. But, you know what type of attack is coming from the other side of the field, right? Just prepare for it. In this case, Gavin knows it's going to be a physical attack, so he throws up a Reflect. I imagine Isabel knows it's going to be a special attack, throws up Light Screen. Ooh, this is going to be a longer one.
Yes, and the Meteor Beam is going to be, a 2-turn attack that you get to use in 1 turn thanks to the Power Herb, so it'll have a special attack increase on the Lunala. But I will say, you saw Reflect, you saw Light Screen. If you
it missed!
It missed, actually! So, you just wasted your 2-turn attack on a miss into the Incineroar. He doesn't even care. Incineroar gets the parting shot out at this point.
The audacity of that Incineroar, that it avoids the attack and then leaves.
And his parting shot, it's like saying stuff back at it. It's like, oh, nice shot,
I don't want to know the wording.
Do you think he screamed, air ball?
Choice words were said by that Incineroar, but that is a really bad turn, and actually I think Isabel could have capitalized even more on that, right? If that had been a throat chop, my goodness, that would have been a pain. Both trainers committing to the double screens. I do like this, and Gavin absolutely has to, right? Because that is the Kyogre coming in. Thunderwave hits this turn. Lunala's going to be going slow. Of course, still has the Shadow Shield in play. That's going to be important. But you know what is going to break that Shadow Shield? A massive water spout.
Right. So Grimmsnarl brought actually really low on that, and Lunala gets paralyzed. So Meteor Beam misses, Thunderwave hits, and Lunala doesn't even get to attack.
It was a really nice adaptation from Gavin, but maybe not Lunala's game, Chief. This one is struggling to get a foothold in the game, and without that Shadow Shield up, this Water Spout could do it. It's going to be really close. I'm not the quickest mathematician, but that Lunala, now there's no Shadow Shield taking way more damage, and, you know, the Kyogre is still very, very close to full health. The Grimmsnarl leaving the field. Yeah, the Groudon has to come in here to set the weather up. But, you know, it's still going to be big damage coming down. And maybe, just maybe, if we saw a Dynamax here, the weather control could be in play. No Dynamax this turn, yeah. Water Spout's still going to hurt, though.
Right, even though it is in the sun, it still does almost half to Groudon. It also brings Lunala down to under half of his HP. And Spirit Break from the Grimmsnarl into Lunala is going to lower its special attack back down to neutral, and it gets paralyzed again. That's 2 gigantic paralysis turns in a row for Gavin's Lunala, and it's already consumed its item, and you know it's just a menace at this point on the field.
This Lunala is having a shocker, to say the least. I mean, it's had 2 turns of full paralysis, a missed Meteor Beam. What can get worse for Lunala in this one? I mean, it's just not able to get a foothold in the game. At least it's been able to sit around thanks to that Groudon and may get to fire back in this one, but dearie me. That's the impact of Thunder Wave, right? And that is why Thunder Wave is so important. That said, you know, you needed a little bit of weather control. Well, there's one way to do it, because this is an interesting build and maybe something worth touching on after the game. You know, the Life Orb on Kyogre does make its Water Spout progressively weaker, so at some point you either have to Dynamax or pivot over to Origin Pulse. But, you know, at this point, well, you got Dynamax, you're in a pretty good position to do so, as Grimmsnarl over on Isabel's side of the field does set up that Reflect. Does mean that Groudon's going to struggle to get a foothold later in the game. And weather control, yep, back over to the Kyogre right now.
There's the Max Geyser. Even though it's in the rain, Lunala just hangs on. So is it going to be 3 turns in a row that Lunala is not able to move? That's
on you, Joe.
This is
That's on you.
This is heartbreaking. That's not on me. All right.
You said it. It's the caster curse.
Listen. It is what it is. Lunala, you know, sometimes like you know you lose Game 7 in a big match. Like they just played better than us today. That's just what Lunala is just in the press conference. Like you know what, Kyogre had a better game plan today.
Lunala's not even played the game. That's like if you got to the end of the game and you were like, hey, what do you think of game number 7? They're like, I played on the bench the whole game. Like I benched out the whole game. That's what Lunala has done at this point.
It has taken 3 hits though, so it's been helpful there.
Mr. Big Time playing defensive over here. This Lunala has not done the work that it needed to do, especially if you're Gavin.
I would like to point one. So Grimmsnarl clicked Reflect because he had literally nothing else to do because Lunala was already paralyzed and light screen was up and you can't fake out. And then the Scary Face actually lowers the speed on Kyogre. Here's the Spirit Break that will take care of that remaining 6 HP for it, and now Kyogre can attack into the other slot. You're talking about Life Orb with it. I believe once Kyogre's HP hits under 80% is where you lose full effectiveness of Water Spout. So that was a great play by Isabel to attack normally twice. With Life Orb, you lost 20% of your HP there, and then because you're at 80%, you're now doing less damage, so now you opt for Max Geyser instead. I'm just saying, like, the sequencing of it was very well done.
Yep, well, we finally get to see the Venusaur come in. This is going to be the swing for Gavin. If there's a way back in the game, and actually, I think leaving the Lunala in, I'm going to give it credit. Leaving the Lunala in just to take hits and work through the Dynamax turns is really, really important here.
Like I said, it was tanking hits. It was doing its job. It was somebody's got to play defense on this team.
All right, I'll accept that Lunala did some work.
So the Thunder Wave goes into Venusaur, and if there's any chance of it also working against the Venusaur, that is going to be a big problem for Gavin. Gavin clicking Bulk Up on Groudon here, raising his attack and defense by 1 stage. Sleep Powder does not connect though. 75% accurate. Unfortunate for Gavin. It is understandable that it does happen sometimes. He really needed that Sleep Powder because he puts Kyogre to sleep. Groudon sticks around, and then maybe he can come back. But at this point, with the paralyzed Venusaur, I'm just not sure.
Well, it's not got chlorophyll. It's not got its full speed anyway. But it's full health. It's full health, and it does have access to Dynamax, or Gigantamax in this case.
Yeah, but it is 4-1 right now. There is an Incineroar on the back, and we actually haven't even seen Isabel's 4th Pokemon at this point. So presumably, if it is Zacian who has Behemoth Blade, we saw just how much damage the Behemoth Blade did into Venusaur the previous game.
I think you kind of have to just go a little bit sooner there. I understand the Sleep Powder play, but
It was the safest play with the bulk up of getting Groudon to sweep.
Yes.
75% of the time, Groudon stays on the field.
No, I can see that out there, but at the same time, I want to see the Vine Lash, Joe. I want to see the Vine Lash. Show me the Vine Lash.
You might not get it because he can still get paralyzed. So that would be a really unfortunate turn of events, or a series of events.
Let's see how
Gavin.
it goes. There's a lot riding on this Venusaur. It's going to get...
Oh, Spirit Break's going to lower his special attack anyway. The light screen is still, probably up at this point. I lost track of the turn count. Kyogre actually has Ice Beam. That's a move that a lot of Kyogres have dropped over the last couple of events for other attacks here. But there is the G-Max Vine Lash. You've seen the cool grassy animation now. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I mean, it did damage, but I mean, look how the light screen and the Spirit Break together. It's just not, it wasn't even threatening the knockout that turn, I don't think, and that's a little bit of a problem. Yes, the Kyogre is going to go down to its Life Orb. That's a little bit of something, but I imagine the Zacian is just going to come in at any point, and this Venusaur is just going to keep getting whittled down as well. Yes, the Spirit Break's not doing anywhere near enough, but there's the Ice Beam to deal huge damage, and at some point, Zacian just comes in, right? Or even Incineroar just comes in and sweeps this game up. So,
and there's the paralysis. Also, Kyogre goes out like a champ, knocking itself out, not even giving Venusaur like the small amount of vindication. Like, all right, at least I got 1 KO. It's like, no, I'm taking myself out.
All right, light screen's worn off though. Light screen's off.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No sun. Still.
And paralysis.
And Zacian against the GX attacker. I am not certain.
Let's just see how it goes, Joe. Let's see how the final turn of this game goes.
I mean, but honestly, Isabel actually deserves a lot of credit with how this set went out. Like, you had some great luck in your factor of the 3 paralysis turns from Lunala, but like that's the apps you played to. That's why she opted for Thunder Wave on